Hi guys, my name is Fombe. Uh, I'm a medical doctor by profession and a farmer by passion. Now, welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to be talking about the whole project, the farming project I got myself involved in, how it started, what motivated me, and also how far have I gone and part of the plans for the future. Now, I know many will be saying, oh man, you're a medical doctor and you are into farming. But my question is, why not? Why does it always have to be either you be a doctor, a lawyer, or an engineer? I mean, we can be all of those things and still be a farmer. I mean, you can be a mechanic, you can be a teacher, you can be in the military, the police force, you can be a civil servant and still be a farmer, right? So now this whole journey started during COVID, right? I had this plan of doing something because I don't want to be hanged on to an employer for my whole life. I want to be somehow liberated, right? Because he who feeds you controls you, right? And literally, I want to be able to feed myself. So, of course, of all things out there, I think farming is the one I'm close to. So during the beginning of the pandemic, COVID-19, I actually used the opportunity to sort of reflect and see what can I do to sort of help myself, as in more focusing on myself, on my personal development. And that was the right moment, right? Because I was at home, we had a lockdown, and so we had plenty of time to reflect. So farming came in our mind, and I'm like, oh yeah, that's something I can do. I actually started a little backyard garden, but the land there lacked topsoil, right? So I had to buy bags of topsoil from one of the hardware store, I think Ace. Yeah, I bought a lot of bags. Now I had to also buy, those shipping barrels, the blue ones, right? So I bought like 3 of them, and then longitudinal. I made a longitudinal cut. So from top to bottom, standing, I cut it in 2 halves. So I had like 6 halves, right? And of course, bore the hole for like more like not filter, but to sort of let the water, the excess water out, right? I can't remember the word now. Yeah, more like a drainage per se, right? And so of course I went to my local nursery, got some plants, planted them. They did wear up to like 2 to 3 weeks. I never intended using synthetic fertilizers, so of course they didn't do well because of course again, and it wasn't cost effective because I had to be buying soil every now and then. So that project really didn't go far. I had to just abandon it, and it died a natural death. But I still had this sort of motivation, right, to move on and do something. So one day I was in town. I don't even know what I went to do in town, and I saw a guy with a box of chicks, like in a cartoon. And I did ask him where he got them from. He told me it was farm and garden. I went there, I did inquire, and they said yeah, they had some chicks, and it was like by then you could actually go there and get your chicks on demand, right? I think now you probably have to pre-order, and then when the chicks come, of course you pay the remainder or something. Yeah, so I went and then had to discuss at home that look, I want to go into this. I don't have a place, so I have to use downstairs for 3 weeks. Yeah, and of course the family understood, and yeah, so the next day I brought them. Now when they asked me at home how many chickens talking about, I told them 300, but I don't know, they were surprised when I probably took them downstairs and I told them no. They said they heard a dozen, like 2 dozen. I'm like, no, 2 dozen. I mean, that's one thing. If I'm going to this, right, sacrificing my time, 24 chickens is not something I want to do, right? So yeah, 300. So I got 300 chicks. It was 150 layers and 150 broiler. Now there's certain factors, right, I want you to take into consideration when going into farming. First of all, are you going to focus on crops or animal husbandry, or will you integrate them? Now I chose integrated, right? So of course I'm like, okay, look, if I have chickens, I'm gonna get some wood shavings, and then they're gonna produce manure, and then where do the manure go? I'm like, oh, okay, I can now probably plant some crops, and then at least I will be able to know what I'm eating, right? And then I could sell the excess to friends at a very reasonable, and I'm serious, very reasonable rate. And yeah, so it becomes a win-win. So I went there and told them, look, it's 300. Like, okay, I'm like, oh, in 3 weeks, I will find a place to move them. So, and then that's the thing. I never had anywhere to sort of move them. So I think that also drove me to moving out and searching. And so I found a place, like 45 minutes away from home. And it's like the area behind me. This place wouldn't have been worked on for over 20 years, right? So I would say literally some little virgin forest, right? And so I had to get people to sort of help me cultivate the land. So of course, felling of trees went on. I had to buy chainsaw, the power saw chainsaw, cutlasses and other things, and pay those guys. At the initial stage, yeah, things were okay. So we cleared the area and focused on building the poultry. So I got some roofing sheets. It was actually 30 by 20. 30 by 20. Yes, so I got roofing sheets. So what we did was, of course, roof the top, and then we ran just one roofing sheet, right? So the width of it, right, like 2 feet around the poultry, dug like 4 inches, so that of course, again, we came in literally into a forest, so we have some wildlife like mongoose and other things, so we had to dig like 4 inches down. So you will see that there is chain link sort of fencing around on top of the roofing sheet. And so we go there, moved the birds. What we did was also just use the wood we would have cut as our posts, rafters, and other things, right? We went very cheap. Yeah, it did help, but of course the building would have been perfect, but by then that was the best option. So we go through that, things went okay. We did the first harvest, and it was okay, but then what I noticed was labor. So that's another thing, labor. So now you've decided to do a farm, to start a farm, right? So the capital is one thing, you get the land, labor. It depends on the volume, right? So if you want to do a big volume, you will need assistance, especially if you are someone who has an 8 to 4 or 9 to 5 job like me, right? And I still work. I had to do a lot of work. There, the capital comes in. So of course I had to buy like power saw or chainsaw, a lot of cutlasses and rakes and shovel and etc. And also pay the labor, right, to cut this down. We did that. We started doing some planting, crops and other things we did. Yeah, vegetables, and the first production was great, as you can see. Of course we had corns, we had seasoning peppers, cabbages, a lot of things, pumpkin, lettuces, and all of the stuff. But then what happened was that now the guys that took to work with me, their eyes became a little bit bigger, right? And now they started, to some extent, actually calculating my so-called profit. They would tell me, okay, look, for example, you see this, right? Like, you have 2 beds of cabbages. Let's say a tray is, let's say 1 tray of cabbages. You have like over 120 plants. When all those plants, you're sure you sell them. And when I started hearing, I'm like, okay, look, I thought these guys were here more for a mutual relationship, right? Because I'm helping them get something and they help me. They've already started to whatever. So I'm like, okay, look, that's the end. And I had to cut a civil relationship with them. And so they went their way. And then I started getting a little bit more smart. Because the aim here was to, of course, carry on this project, but at the same time helping people, right? Because I literally pay those guys almost twice what the government would pay people working in agriculture, right? And it was proven, and even some of them said it, right? And then I have an 8 to 4 job. You come from work directly here, and you ask those guys, what did you guys do today? Like, for example, they will tell you like this, where you like this is this what you did. So it's like, look, I go to medical school, right? Spend a lot of time there versus you probably did, let's say, vocation or something different. I mean, I spent 7 years in medical school, right? And I still cannot believe how I can come and work better than the laborers. I don't love to call people like labor, but literally, right? Than those guys who pay. Then you begin to ask yourself, wow, I mean, where are we heading, right? So the work attitude is not great in most cases, and it's not unique to Grenada, right? I must say this. Probably even you watching this video will say, yeah, it's the same thing down here. Yeah, and so I'm like, okay, look, I'm gonna cut down maybe my hopes. Mind you, cut it down means like instead of planting 3 beds of cabbages, I'm gonna plant one, but I'm gonna do it myself. Find time to weed it, and as time goes on, I get used to it, and that's what I did. So in fact, the first machine I bought was the chainsaw, and all I've been using from time to time would have been cutlass, hoe, and other things. And I would come from work, arrive here maybe at 5:30. At times I leave here up to like 9 o'clock. I'm serious, right? As you can see, crossing the river, right? Yeah, and yeah, this has been the way through. It's not easy, right? Because labor is something, so of course, and once people know that, okay, there's some bit of capital in here, they're like, oh, they literally want to capitalize on that to not doing the work and trying to probably get paid. And so, of course, I started doing the project again on my own. There is a guy here currently who works with me. We'll do work together. He focuses more on the poultry, and then of course, when I come from work, I try to do some gardening, right? As you can see behind me, I'll show you guys some pictures, some footages, and things have been going okay, but it's not a difficult journey so far, although it's not easy. I don't know if you get me, right? So it's more like perseverance, discipline, and also commitment. And you see, it makes it, I think that's where the whole professional in me comes, right? Because we spend that many years in school. In my case, it was like 6 years in medical school, but first of all, a year to learn Spanish because I did medicine in Cuba, so that's 7 years. And you are not only being, let's say, you're not only going through medicine or being taught medicine. It's more like a transformation. So professionally, right? Because you have to sit up late night to study for an exam, right? Or a test and those things. You have to be on call like 36 hours, as the case may be, right? And so it makes it easy because I know, okay, look, when I come here, I'm not rushing to leave the farm, right? I know that, okay, look, I have to make 2 beds today. I have to make 2 beds because if you have, let's say, a whole world of patients to sort of see in the morning, right? Of course, you have to make the ward rounds there before the consultant comes, those things, and you have to do it to the best of your ability. So I think that's where one of the benefits of being a professional comes in. And then me outworking these guys is an embarrassment to the workforce. Seriously, I'm not boasting, right? But then again, it's just the attitude. So yeah, so far so good. This is where I have been, and now the farm has been going on right, very well. We have supplied our vegetables at a small scale, but the eggs are doing great, and also yeah, the whole chicken, right? So it's more like halal. We sell whole chickens to people around, and I personally love to deal with the everyday people. So yeah, we do deliveries. You can call the number on the screen, call, you have eggs, yeah, when do you want it? Usually is X day, and then of course, if we see the urgency at times, we even go further, maybe The liver even did expand from the 150 layers. I brought another 300 because you see, you have to be smart. After a year, probably in half to two, of course, the number of eggs going to be reduced, right? So of course, you need to have that sequential introduction of flux, and so I did that. Things have been going on okay. Yeah, there's, I mean, throughout from like 2020 to 2022, things have been going okay. It hasn't all been smooth, you know. There've been some obstacles, but yeah, it's part of the journey, right? You need to be ready for those things. At times the chicken's gonna die. For example, now the price of eggs on the market, where the feed has gone up, and at times there's flood. I mean, eggs flood the market, and so you wouldn't get much, and all of those things. Yeah, one needs to consider. But of course, yeah, I'm gonna keep on producing more videos, more content as we go on. We're gonna talk about like how I got into probably making the farm more like a one-man show per se, I would call that. I have only one assistant currently. I try to do most of the work myself, and I think we can work together to sort of learn from each other, right? What I did was try to, and I love DIYs. So of course, with DIYs, you can build a lot of stuff by yourself. So you're going to be cut liver, like your feeder, your drinkers, even your brooding box, and those things, right? We are off grid, so it means all the lights here are solar lights, and of course, the river is right behind me. So I got a pump, some barrels, like a tank, and we pump water every now and then. Okay guys, so this is it for this episode. Thank you for joining me, and don't forget to like, subscribe, hit the notification bell so that you'll be notified whenever we post a new video. Until next time, ciao.